Adam, Logitech has brought magnetic switches to gaming mice. I'm here for it.
What is it? What is this mouse?
This is the Logitech Pro X2 Superstrike Lightspeed gaming mouse from Logitech.
Okay, and you're saying it has interesting technology. Tell me about this HITS system.
Yeah, so the thing that's changed is that in a traditional mouse, like this one, there's a mechanical switch under each of your main mouse buttons, right? You click it, it makes a sound, and when the two pieces of metal inside that mechanical switch touch, a mouse click happens.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Now in this, no mechanical contacts. Well, I mean, on the thumb switchers there are, and on the mouse wheel there is.
Okay.
But on the main two buttons, all magnets.
So magnets are touching?
No, magnets don't touch, that's the important thing. But what there's a sensor that detects where a magnet is stuck up underneath the top of the mouse button is. And when you press down, it translates that position in space into a yes, no, is it actuated? And it's an analog sense, so it can tell how far you press the mouse on the entire thing. Basically what it's doing is it's converting what was previously a mechanical action into an electrical sensor and software action.
Huh, okay, and I guess why would you need that?
Well, it turns out when you convert mechanical actions into software controlled, you can do all sorts of interesting things. You get, for example, the ability to trigger a haptic feedback bump, a linear actuator like you would find in a MacBook trackpad, or any number of trackpads that feel like they're moving but actually aren't, or say like a switch controller, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And you can trigger those linear actuators based on the position of the mouse switch in space.
So you would still feel a click, but it's not actually a click.
It's a buttload of technology to replicate the feel of a mechanical switch clicking.
Okay, once again, why would you want that?
So when you turn the mechanical switch into a software controlled thing, you get a lot more configurability. So on this old mechanical switch mouse, if you want to change the actuation point for the switch, the way you do it is by peeling the mouse feet off, unscrewing some screws, taking the whole mouse apart, desoldering the old switches, soldering new switches on, and then reassembling the whole thing and putting a new set of feet on.
I wouldn't want to do that.
It's a pain. I've done it before, it's not great.
Okay.
On this mouse, you move a dial on a piece of software.
And that what does that control?
So there are three things you can actually control in the mouse. There's the actuation point, how far down you press it before the click happens.
Okay.
Right? That's easy to understand.
But at some point it still will bottom out physically?
I mean, yeah, it's like a 0.3 of a millimeter throw or something. It's a very small, it's normal mouse throw, no change there. There's also the amount of haptic feedback you get when that click happens. So you can go anywhere from no haptic feedback if you're a crazy person, don't do that, all the way up to a set of 5, which is, I think, too powerful haptic feedback for me.
Like, could you hear it? Is it loud enough to, or feel it rumble?
It's not that you can hear it, but the point of doing this, and we'll get to this in a minute, is that you can tap really, really fast. So if you're, say, playing a first-person shooter, you're shooting a semi-automatic gun that shoots one bullet every time you press the mouse button, then you want to be able to click that insanely fast, right? Just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
When you have too much of a haptic feedback, then that actually interferes with your ability to reset the switch.
Okay.
Now, the third thing that you get configurability over is how far off of the actuation point, past the actuation point, you have to lift back up before you can trigger another click by pressing down again.
Okay.
So
you don't have to fully extend.
You don't have to come all the way up, because if you think about it, on mechanical switches, a lot of the input latency at this point isn't in the actual switch design, it's in the throw distance that the switch travels before it clicks.
Which is why you get shorter switches. I mean, like keyboards. You can have shorter switches, or
or you can do hair you can buy switches that trigger in the first tenth of a millimeter of a keyboard switch, something like that. But by making this in software, you can configure all that stuff into it exactly how you like.
So you can control the width of the gap, but then also where the gap is placed.
And since most people, I assume, aren't able to not bottom out the mouse when they're clicking.
Yeah, that'd be me.
It also means that you can lift up halfway and trigger again if you want, right? That's the rapid fire option. So those are the three things. The actuation point, how deep in the press the actuation happens, the amount of haptic feedback you get from that linear actuator, and then the third thing is how far up you have to lift before another press will register. And you can control all those independently. Unfortunately, you do have to use Logitech's G-Hub software for this still. Logitech hasn't moved on to the web-based hardware configurator train yet, but hopefully they'll get there one day. It does have onboard memory on the mouse though, so you can set it up in G-Hub once, uninstall, save your stuff to your onboard profile, and then uninstall G-Hub forever.
Or move over to Linux.
Or move over to Linux. And apparently G-Hub works in bottles and some of the wine emulators and Linux. I haven't tried that yet.
Huh, okay.
So that's the benefit of the thing. in practice, when I was actually trying to shoot people with this mouse, I found that I was able to shoot semi-automatic guns really, really quickly without any of the slop movement that you get when you're trying to do fast clicks, typically. So typically, with a sensitive mouse, you're using high DPI.
Like this super light.
This is the super light one, my previous mouse of choice. Superlight 2 has come out in between, but I didn't find it worth upgrading, actually.
Okay.
But when you're clicking the mechanical switch, there tends to be a little bit of mouse movement, and that can mess up your aim when you're doing the fast triggers.
Huh.
By setting this to a really, really high, meaning a very low depression actuation point, and just barely grazing the mouse as you're clicking, you don't get any movement. You don't get any of that slop movement. So you can do things like shoot a semi-automatic pistol really, really fast and keep it on somebody's head the whole time, just having to manage recoil. It was the first time I used it in a game. I was playing Arc Raiders. I was kind of blown away. I was really surprised.
Is this technically considered cheating? Because I know Snap Tap and there's other technologies that some games are banning. This is not.
This isn't cheating.
Okay.
The Snap Tap feature is specifically to game a feature in Counter-Strike is the main one.
But I mean, are you actually better with this mouse?
I mean, look, it's impossible to tell, right?
Impossible?
Well,
can't you look at KD? You know,
you can look at your
ratio,
average damage per round, all that stuff. The games that I'm playing, you don't. It's wildly variable because there's like loot and different guns and all sorts of stuff like that. What I will say is that playing Arc Raiders, I tried some Counter-Strike. Using semi-auto guns, which I tend to do, even for example in Counter-Strike, even when I'm shooting a gun that's a full auto gun like the AK-47, I tend to tap because you get better control and you don't have to manage recoil, right?
Okay.
So it was a marked improvement in my ability to shoot. Whether that retains over a long period of time, I'm not sure. So. Because sometimes you get used to things, and you, like the novelty is a strong factor at the beginning of testing something like this, and then it kind of wears off over time as your brain gets used to it.
And you've had it for what, about a week?
About a week now.
Okay.
Little 5 days, I think, at this point. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I messed around with it, I'm not a mouse person, but when I messed around with it, one of the things I did not like is that it's quiet.
Yeah.
I hate that. I actually like clicky things. I like my keyboard to be very loud, my mouse to be loud too. So, but you're not the case.
So I like quiet because I sit on a desk in front of a microphone all day, and I have quiet keys on my mechanical keyboard. I have quiet switches on my mice. This thing's silent. It's ridiculous. It's
effectively silent.
You can probably hear it a little tiny bit, but not really.
Wow. All right. I guess my last question is, what does it feel like? Like it sounds different, and you're saying that it kind of feels different in terms of use. You're faster with it, but does it feel good to press?
It doesn't have the sharp click that a mouse switch has. On the Superlight 2, on the Superlight rather, I'm using stock switches. On my G Pro 1, I have Kale H Reds because it was from a period of time where Logitech was shipping kind of bad switches, and I swapped them out a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Both of those have very defined actuation points, and while you definitely can feel the haptics, you get the moment that it depresses, and you can feel that, it's not as well defined and it's not as sharp as the mechanical switch. Now, this is a software controlled process, right? Typically on haptic stuff for a gamepad or whatever, you're just sending audio waves or something analogous to that to the actuator. And my hope is that they'll give us the ability to configure that on these mice at some point in the future, because I would love to be able to tune the actual shape of the haptic response curve on this.
So physically it's possible, it just isn't in the software.
I mean, look, this is the benefit of moving mechanical systems to software. I can't tune the feel of a switch that's a mechanical switch. I can design a new switch, I can manufacture a new switch, I can desolder and resolder the new ones, I can do all that. But I can't just move a lever, I can't make a shape on a board and change that curve. I would hope that that's one of the outcomes of this whole process.
What's the price of the Superlight?
It was $180 when it came out. I think they're $140 now.
Okay. So this isn't like, oh wow, nobody's ever seen a mouse this expensive before.
No, it's not like buying a Lamborghini versus buying an Accord, right?
Okay.
But it is, in all other regards, it's a pretty standard mouse, right? It uses their Hero 2 sensor, which is 100 DPI up to 44,000 DPI. It goes up to 8K polling, which means how many times per second it checks to see if the mouse is moved. Only if you're using G-Hub on Windows. If you're using just the standard USB interface, it's limited to 1,000 hertz. It has an ambidextrous design. But The buttons are only on the right-handed side, so left-handers, got to use your pinky or something. It has a mouse wheel. It's 5-button design basically. So 2 thumb buttons, the mouse wheel clicks, and then the 2 haptic magnetic buttons.
And even though this is called Super Light and this is called Super Strike, is it still pretty light?
So the Super Strike weighs about 3 grams more than the Super Light 2, which is not pictured here. This is the Super Light 1, which weighs the same thing. They're both 63 grams.
Oh, okay. And so you didn't feel any sort of
Very
difference.
little difference in that.
Okay.
They even have the same pad shapes on the feet, stuff like that. So.
Oh, really?
And it works with the Logitech PowerPlay mats. If you have one of the PowerPlay mats, that's how I tested it. They report 90 hours of battery life. I tested it with the PowerPlay mat, which kind of constantly trickle charges the mouse as you're using it. So I didn't actually confirm the 90 hours of battery life. But yeah, it's a remarkable mouse. I was really blown away by it. Like I said, I wish I had a little bit more control over how that haptics felt compared to the comfortable responsiveness of a mechanical click. But generally speaking, I'm really optimistic about this. And in my experience, when we change mechanical interfaces to software controlled interfaces, it's usually really good for customizability and like making things exactly the way you want them to be.
Nice, okay, sweet. Well, thanks for testing it out. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, get down in the comments. We'll try to answer them.
We'll take a look, yeah.
Also, I think some of it is just you need even more time to play with it. It's only a week, but settle into it in a couple months maybe, and
we can check back in. Yeah.
So anyway, thanks Will. Thanks everybody. Get down in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to subscribe here on PC World for more PC hardware goodness. We'll catch you in the next one.